So a lot of conscious leaders, I feel, kind of get backed into this corner when we start talking about what we attract to us, because we never seem to get a clear answer on why does all the devastatingly horrible shit happen to us. And we kind of get refocused, but we never really feel satisfaction in that. And I think it's about this kind of like fabric attracting lint. It's like we do not attract destruction to us. We attract how we cope with destruction to us. And we have far more control over that than we do subscribing to any belief system that says, I attracted this destruction to me in any way, shape, or form. Now, granted, I guess if you're doing destructive things, like unto like isn't shocking. But I'm talking about we who just exist here in this experience, doing our best, trying our best, working toward actualizing ourselves and, you know, admitting we don't know how and trying to figure out how. I cannot subscribe to an idea or a belief system that says I attracted destruction to my life, or violence to my life, or injustice to my life, or corruption to my life. I cannot logically subscribe there. And I think it's why we're so dissatisfied when we just get our focus kind of look over here. We're not going to talk about that part, but it gets back into that everything happens for you, nothing is happening to you, everything is happening for you. And it's like, tell that to someone who's just had a lot of terrible shit happen to them. It's not going to be met well. And so I guess the real side of this is we don't attract destruction. We don't attract injustice. When we're walking through this experience as a connected conscious player and trying our best, it's not even reasonable to entertain that notion. And so I feel like after several years of researching consciousness and communication and how do we practice this, and being my own walking research and living through destruction and living through injustice and living through violence and all of these things, and going, where am I responsible? What part am I responsible for? Because I'm a responsible being and I will take responsibility for what I need to, and I will improve because it's what I seek to do. I respond to feedback. And so where's the feedback? And if that's what it is, hey, you attracted this to you, and don't worry, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. I mean, you've just killed my incentive. And with no incentive, that internal intercom is going to get turned really, really down. And so I have to believe that we absolutely do not attract in this way. Like unto like is a real governing principle in this experience. It's how energy works, and attraction is absolutely going on. The law of attraction exists, it's real, but it's faulty in this place. And maybe it's not that it's faulty, maybe it just needs some expansion, and perhaps this is what it is. I do not believe we are attracting the bad to us. I do believe bad happens to us, and consciously we get to decide what to do with it. And of course, because we are hardwired to survive and thus to succeed here, we will effectively take what happens to us and make it work for us. But we get to take responsibility for that part, not for the part that I brought this on, or I attracted this, or I'm giving this, and therefore this is what I'm getting back. This is what I believe we attract. I believe we attract our active participation. It's kind of like How we participate is how we're contributing. It's our faith contribution, if you will. And our faith contribution is always matched. So it's not those things happening to us, it's how we cope with it. It's how we process it. It's how we allow it into our life, into our classroom, into our book bag, into and onto our journey. That is what we keep attracting to us. And so we essentially become creatures of pattern. We start saying, this is who I am, instead of this is what I've developed as a coping strategy to survive these situations I'm in or these conditions I've been dealt. And so I keep attracting the same coping strategies to me because I keep finding myself in situations to use the coping strategies that I've been using to survive these situations. But you are likewise responsible for disrupting your own pattern. You've got to disrupt that pattern of belief that says you are who you are in situations where you're surviving. Because when we survive, we will do everything necessary to accomplish that task. We are hardwired to do so. And because we are in survival mode, we're not actively engaged in this perceptual process. We're not in the conversation. We're not engaged in the conversation. We're not actively listening. We're not actively participating in our own classroom. And so when we're outside of our classroom and in survival mode, we're going to survive in ways that are outside of ourselves. When we confuse that, when we start to interpret our conditions as our being, we start to disrupt our belief system. And so we've got to flip this script. We've got to say, I'm not going to allow my conditions to disrupt my belief system. I am going to use my belief system to disrupt these conditions. And what that means is I'm going to stop looking for ways to cope and settle into these conditions, and I'm going to start actively participating in my own belief system that I can conquer and get out of these conditions that are keeping me from my self-actualizing. So I do not believe we attract the destruction to us. I believe we attract our coping, our responses to that destruction. And so the flip the script, the way to disrupt your own pattern is to see the destruction outside of you and to keep your ability to conquer that destruction inside of you. I think it helps change our view from this is me to this is me in this situation. And when you're this is me in this situation, you become movable again instead of planted where you cannot bloom.